Dr. Sarah Chun rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers did not make sense. She had been working at the radio telescope facility for 12 years, and she had never seen anything like this before. "Tom, come look at this," she called to her partner across the room. Tom Williams walked over with his coffee mug in hand. He was younger than Sarah, but he knew the equipment just as well. "What is it now? Another glitch in the system?" "I do not think so. Look at these readings." Sarah pointed at the screen. "Something big is moving at the edge of our solar system. Really big." Tom leaned closer and studied the data. His face went pale. "This cannot be right. According to this, there are multiple objects out there. Each one is huge, and they are slowing down." Sarah nodded. "That is what I thought too. But I checked everything 3 times. The equipment is working fine." "How big are we talking about?" Tom asked. "Each object is about the size of Manhattan. Maybe bigger." Tom nearly dropped his coffee. "That is impossible. Nothing natural could be that big and moving that fast." "I know, but the data does not lie." Within an hour, Sarah had called the main office. Within 2 hours, telescopes all around the world were pointing toward the same spot in space. By evening, every major space agency on Earth was looking at the same incredible sight. The objects were ships. There was no doubt about it. They had smooth, dark surfaces that seemed to absorb light. They moved in perfect formation, like a fleet of military vessels. But these were not human ships. They were far too advanced for anything humans could build. Dr. James Patterson, the director of NASA, stood in the control room watching the main screen. Around him, dozens of scientists and engineers worked at their computers. Everyone was trying to figure out what they were seeing. "How many ships are there?" Patterson asked. "We count at least 50, replied Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, the head of Deep Space Monitoring. "But there might be more. Some of them are hiding behind others." "Where did they come from?" "We are not sure. They appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days ago. But we only detected them today because they started slowing down." Patterson felt a chill run down his spine. 3 days ago? How fast were they moving? Close to the speed of light. If they had not started slowing down, we would never have seen them coming. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. These ships had traveled between the stars. They came from somewhere far away, and they were now in human space. "Have we tried to contact them?" Patterson asked. "Yes, sir. We have been sending radio signals for the past 4 hours. Every frequency we can think of. But there is no response." Dr. Rodriguez pulled up another screen. "We tried everything. Radio waves, laser signals, even mathematical sequences. We sent them pictures of Earth, recordings of music, and basic math problems. Nothing gets a response." Patterson stared at the screen showing the alien fleet. The ships were beautiful in a way that made him feel small. They had smooth curves and seemed to glow with a faint light. But their silence was frightening. "Keep trying to contact them," he ordered, "and get me the president on the line." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Russia, China, Europe, and every other major country, leaders were gathering in emergency meetings. Military commanders were asking if the ships posed a threat. Scientists were trying to understand technology that seemed impossible. General Mark Thompson sat in the Pentagon War Room, surrounded by maps and computer screens. He had spent his whole career preparing for threats to Earth. But he had always imagined those threats would come from other humans. "What are our options?" He asked his staff. Colonel Williams, his aide, looked uncomfortable. "Sir, our weapons are not designed for targets in space. We have some missiles that could reach them, but we do not know if they would be effective." "What about our space-based weapons?" "We have a few laser satellites, but they are meant for destroying smaller targets." These ships are massive. General Thompson studied the images of the alien fleet. How long until they reach Earth? At their current speed, about 2 weeks. But sir, they could speed up or slow down at any time. We have no idea what their capabilities are. And they still have not responded to any communication? No, sir. It is like they do not even know we are here. That night, Sarah Chun stood outside the telescope facility and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was moving toward Earth. She thought about all the science fiction movies she had watched as a child. In those movies, aliens always sent messages before they arrived. They made demands or tried to communicate. But these aliens were completely silent. Her phone rang. It was her sister calling from New York. Sarah, I saw the news. Is it true? Are there really alien ships coming here? Yes, it is true. I was one of the first people to detect them. Are they hostile? Are they going to attack us? Sarah looked up at the stars again. I do not know. They have not said anything to us. They just keep moving toward Earth. That is terrifying. Yes, it is. Around the world, people were having similar conversations. The news had spread quickly despite government attempts to control the information. Social media was full of theories and fears. Some people thought the aliens were coming to help humanity. Others were sure they were invaders. Back at NASA, Dr. Patterson was on a video call with world leaders. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Britain, the President of China, and a dozen other leaders filled his screen. What do we know about their weapons? Asked the Chinese president. We do not see any obvious weapons, Patterson replied. But that does not mean they do not have them. Their technology is far beyond ours. Should we prepare for war? Asked the British Prime Minister. We should prepare for anything, said the American president. But we should also keep trying to communicate. Maybe they do not understand our signals. Dr. Patterson nodded. We are working on new ways to contact them. But so far, nothing has worked. The meeting continued for hours, but no one had good answers. Humanity was facing the unknown, and all they could do was wait and watch. The alien fleet continued its steady approach toward Earth. The ships maintained perfect formation, never changing course or speed. They seemed to have a destination in mind, but they were not sharing their plans with anyone. As the days passed, more details about the ships became clear. They were not just large, they were elegant. They had no visible engines or weapons. They moved through space as if the laws of physics did not apply to them. Scientists tried to understand how the ships worked, but every theory failed. The aliens had mastered technology that humans could not even imagine, and still they remained silent. The world watched and waited, knowing that in less than 2 weeks, humanity would meet its first visitors from the stars. But whether those visitors came in peace or war, no one could say. Commander Marcus Rodriguez floated in the space station, looking down at Earth through the large window. He had been living in space for 6 months, but he never got tired of seeing his home planet. The blue oceans and white clouds always made him feel peaceful, but today was different. Today, something was very wrong. Marcus, come to the control room, called Dr. Emma Foster over the radio. She sounded worried. Marcus pushed himself through the hallway and into the main control room. Emma was staring at multiple screens, her face pale with concern. What is happening down there? Marcus asked. Power grids are failing all over the world. It started in Europe 3 hours ago. Now it is spreading everywhere. Marcus looked at the screens showing Earth. Normally, the night side of the planet was covered with bright lights from cities. But now, large dark areas were spreading across the continents. Is it some kind of attack? Marcus asked. We do not think so. There are no explosions or damage. The power is just stopping. Equipment is shutting down for no reason. Dr. Foster pulled up another screen. Look at this. Our satellites are going offline, one by one. First the ones closest to Earth. Now the ones farther out. Marcus felt his stomach turn cold. How close are the alien ships? They reached Mars orbit yesterday. Now they are moving toward Earth. On the main screen, Marcus could see the alien fleet. The ships were arranged in a perfect circle around Earth, but they were still far away. Each ship was dark and smooth, giving off no light of its own. Have they done anything? Fired any weapons? No, they are just sitting there. But the power failures started right after they got into position. Marcus watched as another section of Europe went dark. Cities that had been bright just hours ago were now invisible. How are people handling this down there? Dr. Foster shook her head. It is chaos. Cars are stopping in the middle of roads. Hospitals are switching to backup power, but even that is failing. Planes are making emergency landings because their instruments are shutting down. Down on Earth, Dr. Sarah Chun was experiencing the blackout firsthand. She was in her laboratory when all the computers suddenly went dark. The lights went out a few seconds later. Tom, are you there? She called in the darkness. I am here, came his voice from across the room. What happened? Did we lose power? Sarah felt around for a flashlight. When she found it and turned it on, the light was very dim. Something is wrong with the flashlight too. Tom tried his cell phone. The screen would not turn on. My phone is dead. But it was fully charged an hour ago. Outside the building, Sarah could hear car engines stopping and people shouting. She looked out the window and saw that the entire city was dark. Even the cars on the highway had stopped moving. This is not just a power outage, Sarah said. Something is affecting all electronic devices. They made their way outside. In the darkness, people were standing around their cars, confused and scared. Some people had battery-powered radios, but even those were not working. An old man approached. Them. He was carrying an antique pocket watch. Excuse me, do you know what is happening? My watch is still working, but everything else has stopped. Sarah looked at the pocket watch. It was mechanical, with gears and springs instead of electronics. Mechanical things still work. It is only electronic devices that have stopped. Tom's eyes went wide. The alien ships. This has to be connected to them. Across the world, similar. Scenes were playing out. In New York City, millions of people were trapped in subway tunnels when the trains stopped. In Tokyo, the entire city went dark in the middle of the day. In London, Big Ben continued to chime the hours, but all the digital clocks had stopped. Emergency services tried to respond, but their radios and computers were dead. Fire trucks and ambulances with older, simpler engines could still run, but they had no way to communicate with each other. General Thompson stood in the Pentagon War Room, which was lit only by emergency candles. The building's backup generators had failed within minutes of the main power going out. Sir, we have lost contact with all our military bases, reported Colonel Williams. Every communication system is down. What about our nuclear weapons? Can we still launch them if we need to? The newer systems are all offline, but some of our oldest missiles might still work. They use simpler technology. General Thompson felt helpless. The most powerful military in the world had been reduced to using candles and mechanical equipment. What are our scientists saying about this? The ones we can still reach think the aliens are creating some kind of field that interferes with electricity, but we do not understand how it works. Back on the space station, Marcus and Emma watched as the last lights on Earth went out. The planet that had been bright with human civilization was now dark. How is this possible? Marcus asked. They are not even close to Earth yet. Emma was working with one of the few pieces of equipment that still functioned. The space station had special shielding that protected it from radiation, and apparently that same shielding was protecting them from whatever the aliens were doing. I think they are projecting some kind of field. Look at this. She showed Marcus a screen with data from their instruments. There is a pattern to the power failures. They are not random. What kind of pattern? The failures started at the points on Earth that are closest to their ships. Then they spread outward like ripples in a pond. Marcus studied the pattern. So they are definitely causing this. But why? If they wanted to attack us, why not just destroy our cities? Maybe they do not want to hurt us. Maybe they just want to stop us from using our technology. Dr. Sarah Chun and Tom had found an old radio that used vacuum tubes instead of computer chips. It was the only electronic device they could find that still worked. "This is emergency broadcast system," came a crackling voice from the radio. "All electronic devices have failed worldwide. The cause is unknown, but it appears to be connected to the alien ships now orbiting Earth. Citizens are advised to remain calm and help your neighbors." Tom shook his head. Remain calm? The entire world just went back to the Stone Age. But Sarah was thinking about something else. "Tom, remember what that man said about his pocket watch? Mechanical things still work. So maybe we can still study what is happening. We just need to use older equipment. Mechanical instruments, analog computers, things like that." They spent the next few hours searching through old storage rooms in the laboratory. They found equipment that had not been used in decades. Mechanical calculators, analog measurement devices, and instruments that worked without any electronic parts. "Look at this," Tom said, holding up an old seismograph. "This measures earthquakes using only mechanical parts." Sarah connected the device and watched as it immediately started showing readings. Something is happening. The aliens are not just blocking our electronics. They are doing something to the Earth itself. The readings showed waves of energy flowing across the planet. The waves were coming from the positions where the alien ships were located. "It is like they are sending some kind of signal through the Earth," Sarah said. "But not a radio signal. Something else." As the hours passed, more alien ships appeared in Earth's sky. People could see them even in daylight. They were huge and dark, hanging in the air like storm clouds. Commander Marcus watched from space as the alien fleet took up positions all around Earth. The ships formed a perfect sphere, with Earth at the center. "They are not getting closer," Emma observed. "They are keeping their distance. Maybe they do not want to get too close to us. Or maybe they do not need to. Whatever they are doing, it is working from far away." On Earth, people were adapting to life without electricity. Those who lived in rural areas were better prepared. They had wood stoves for heat, wells with hand pumps for water, and horses for transportation. In the cities, it was much harder. Millions of people were trapped in tall buildings when the elevators stopped working. Food in refrigerators was spoiling. Hospitals were struggling to care for patients without their electronic equipment. But humans are clever and tough. They began working together to solve problems. People shared food and water. They helped elderly neighbors get down from high floors. They organized groups to keep order in the streets. Dr. Chun continued working with her mechanical instruments. She was beginning to understand that the aliens were not trying to hurt humanity. Instead, they seemed to be forcing humans to live differently. "Tom, I think I know what they are doing." "What?" "They are not attacking us. They are teaching us something. They want to show us what life is like without all our electronic gadgets." Tom looked skeptical. That seems like a strange way to teach a lesson. Maybe to them, it makes perfect sense. As night fell on the second day of darkness, people around the world looked up at the alien ships hanging in their sky. The ships were silent and motionless, like patient teachers waiting for their students to learn an important lesson But what that lesson was, no one yet knew. Dr. James Okafor had been hiking for 3 days to reach Yellowstone National Park. Without cars or planes working, it was the only way to get there. He carried a heavy backpack filled with mechanical instruments and notebooks. As a scientist who studied alien life, he needed to see the aliens up close. He was not alone. A small team of scientists and park rangers walked with him. They had heard reports that something strange was happening in the park. People living nearby said they saw lights in the forest at night. Not electric lights, but something softer and more natural. "There," said Ranger Lisa Martinez, pointing ahead. "Do you see that glow?" Through the trees, James could see a pale blue light. It was not like any light he had ever seen before. It seemed to pulse gently, like a heartbeat. "Stay quiet," James whispered. "We do not know how they will react to us." The team moved slowly through the forest. As they got closer, the light became brighter. Soon they could see its source. In a clearing ahead, there was a structure made of what looked like crystal. It was tall and thin, reaching up toward the trees. The crystal glowed with soft blue light, but that was not the most amazing thing. Standing near the crystal were 3 tall figures. They were clearly not human. The aliens were about 8 feet tall and very thin. They wore suits that seemed to bend light around them, making them hard to see clearly. When they moved, it was like watching shadows dance. "My God," whispered Dr. Sandra Kim, the team's biologist. "They are beautiful." The aliens seemed to be working around the crystal structure. They moved their hands in flowing gestures, and the crystal responded by changing its glow. Sometimes it was blue, sometimes green, sometimes a color that had no name. James pulled out his notebook and began drawing what he saw. One of the aliens stopped working and turned toward the humans. Even though James could not see its face clearly, he felt like it was looking directly at him. "Should we try to approach them?" asked Ranger Martinez. "Let me try," James said. He stepped forward slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Hello," he called out softly. The alien tilted its head like a bird listening to a new sound. Then it did something unexpected. It raised one hand in what looked like a greeting. James felt his heart racing. This was humanity's first real contact with an alien being. He took another step forward, but as he got closer, something strange happened. The alien began to become see-through, like a ghost. James could see the trees behind it through its body. "What is it doing?" Dr. Kim asked. "I think it is protecting itself," James replied. "Maybe it does not want us to get too close." The alien maintained its distance, but it continued to watch the humans. The other 2 aliens also stopped their work and turned to look at the visitors. James decided to try something different. He sat down on the ground and put his notebook away. He wanted to show that he was not a threat. Slowly, the alien became solid again. It moved closer, but stopped about 20 feet away. James could see more details now. The alien suit was not really a suit at all. It seemed to be part of its body, flowing and changing like liquid metal. "Look at what it is doing to the forest," Dr. Kim whispered. James looked around the clearing. Something amazing was happening. The trees looked healthier than they had in years. Their leaves were greener, their bark was smoother. Even the grass seemed more alive. Near the crystal structure, dead plants were coming back to life. James saw a small tree that had been killed by disease. Its branches were growing new leaves as he watched. "They are healing the forest," James said in wonder. The alien seemed to understand what James was thinking. It moved to a patch of dead ground and touched it gently. Immediately, green shoots began to grow from the soil. Over the next hour, the humans watched in amazement as the aliens worked. They were not just healing individual plants. They were fixing the entire ecosystem. Streams that had been polluted became clear. Animals that had stayed away began to return to the area. How are they doing this? Dr. Kim asked. James shook his head. I have no idea. Their technology is beyond anything we understand. One of the aliens approached a dead lake that had been poisoned by acid rain years ago. It placed its hands in the water, and the lake began to change. The water became clearer, and fish that had not been seen in decades began to swim in it. They are gardeners, James realized. They are not here to conquer us. They are here to fix our planet. Meanwhile, Commander Marcus was watching similar events from space. The alien ships had moved closer to Earth, but they were not threatening cities or military bases. Instead, they were positioning themselves over areas of natural beauty. Emma, look at this, Marcus called. He was studying images from their telescope. The aliens are landing near every major national park and wilderness area on Earth. Dr. Foster joined him at the observation window. What are they doing there? The same thing they are doing in Yellowstone. They are healing the environment. Through their telescope, they could see crystal structures appearing in locations around the world. The Amazon rainforest, the African savanna, the Canadian wilderness, the Australian outback. Everywhere the aliens landed, the land began to recover. The electromagnetic field they are creating, Emma said suddenly. What if it is not meant to stop our technology? What if it is meant to help the planet heal? Marcus thought about this. You mean our electronics were somehow hurting the Earth? Think about it. Radio waves, cell phone signals, satellite transmissions. All of that electromagnetic noise filling the air 24 hours a day. What if it was interfering with natural processes? Back in Yellowstone, James was making similar discoveries. Using his mechanical instruments, he measured the energy around the crystal structure. There was a field of some kind, but it was not harmful. In fact, it seemed to make everything around it healthier. Dr. Okafor called Ranger Martinez. You need to see this. She led him to a section of forest that had been damaged by a wildfire the year before. The alien had been working there for only an hour, but already new trees were growing from the hour. Burned ground. This is impossible, Dr. Kim said. Trees do not grow this fast, but James was beginning to understand. Maybe they do, under the right conditions. Maybe our technology was preventing the Earth from healing itself. As the day went on, more people arrived at the park. Word had spread that the aliens were there, and humans came from all directions. Some came on foot, some on horseback, some in old cars that still worked without computers. The aliens did not seem afraid of the crowds. They continued their work, always maintaining some distance from humans, but never acting hostile. When humans got too close, the aliens simply became translucent until the people backed away. Dr. Chon arrived at the park on the second day. She had traveled from her laboratory with a team of other scientists. They brought mechanical instruments and cameras that used old-fashioned film instead of digital sensors. James, this is incredible, she said when she saw the crystal structure. We are detecting energy patterns unlike anything in our science books. What kind of energy? It is hard to describe. It is like electricity, but alive. It flows through the ground, through the trees, through everything. James nodded. I think it is the Earth's natural energy, the kind that existed before we filled the air with radio signals. That night, the scientists made camp near the crystal structure. They wanted to observe the aliens during the night hours. As darkness fell, the crystal's glow became brighter, and more aliens appeared from their ship. The ship itself was beautiful to see. It hovered silently above the treetops, shaped like a giant leaf. Its surface seemed to be made of the same flowing material as the alien suits. Look, whispered Dr. Kim. They are doing something different now. The aliens had gathered around the crystal in a circle. They were not moving their hands this time. Instead, they seemed to be singing, though no sound reached the human ears. The crystal responded by sending waves of colored light through the Yao. Forest dot with each wave of light, the forest became more alive. Flowers bloomed in the darkness. Animals that had been hiding came out to drink from the newly cleaned streams. Even the air seemed fresher and easier to breathe. They are not just healing the land, James realized. They are waking it up. They are helping the earth remember how to be healthy. As the humans watched, one of the aliens separated from the group and approached their camp. It stopped at the edge of the firelight and looked at them with what seemed like curiosity. Dr. Chun had an idea. She picked up a stick and drew a simple picture in the dirt. It was a circle with rays coming out of it, a sun. The alien watched her draw. Then it picked up its own stick and drew something next to her picture. It was a more complex design, showing the sun connected to the earth by flowing lines. It understands, Chun whispered. It knows we are trying to communicate. The alien added more to its drawing. It showed the earth surrounded by a web of energy lines. But some of the lines were broken or tangled. James studied the picture. I think it is showing us what is wrong with our planet. The natural energy flows have been damaged. The alien drew one more thing. It showed the crystal structures connected to the energy lines, fixing the breaks and untangling the knots. They are here to repair the damage, James said. They are healing the Earth's energy system. Dr. Sarah Chun sat at her mechanical desk calculator, working with numbers by candlelight. 3 weeks had passed since the aliens arrived, and she was finally beginning to understand their pattern. Tom worked beside her with pencil and paper, making charts and drawings of what they had learned. Look at this, Sarah said, pointing to her calculations. The electromagnetic field is strongest in cities and weakest near the alien crystal structures. Tom studied her numbers. So the closer you get to where the aliens are working, the less their field affects our technology. Exactly. And where their field is weakest, small electronic devices are starting to work again. They had discovered this by accident. Sarah's old battery radio had begun working when she brought it near the Yellowstone area. At first she thought it was broken, but then she realized the pattern. There is more, Sarah said. I talked to Dr. Martinez at the Amazon site yesterday. She said the same thing is happening there. People living near the alien restoration areas can use simple electronics again. Tom scratched his head. But why would they block our technology in some places and allow it in others? I think they are teaching us something. They want us to learn how to live with less technology, but they are not trying to send us back to the Stone Age forever. In a small town near Yellowstone, this was exactly what was happening. The people there had learned to live without most of their electronic devices. They used candles for light, wood stove for heat, and horses for transportation. But they had also discovered that their simple radios and basic electronics worked fine. Mayor Robert Hayes stood in the town hall, addressing a group of residents. We have been living this way for 3 weeks now, and I think we are doing better than before. How can you say that? Asked Mrs. Johnson, an elderly woman who missed her television. We have no internet, no cell phones, no modern conveniences. But look around you, the mayor replied. Crime has dropped to zero. People are talking to each other instead of staring at screens. Children are playing outside instead of sitting inside with video games. And the air is cleaner than it has been in years. Dr. Patricia Woods, the town doctor, stood up. Robert is right. I am seeing fewer cases of stress and anxiety. People are sleeping better. And without all the electromagnetic noise, people with certain medical conditions are feeling better too. Young Emma Hayes, the mayor's daughter, raised her hand. She was 12 years old, and had always been good with art. I want to show you something. She led the group outside to the town square. There, drawn in colored stones and flower petals, was a large, beautiful pattern. It was similar to the designs the aliens had been making near their crystal structures. I made this yesterday, Emma said. I do not know why, but I felt like I should create it. As they looked at the pattern, something amazing happened. One of the aliens appeared at the edge of the square. It was the first time any of them had seen one up close. The alien looked at Emma's artwork for a long moment. Then it began to create its own pattern next to hers. The alien used what looked like light itself, drawing glowing lines in the air that slowly settled onto the ground. When the alien finished, the two patterns connected to form a larger design. The moment they joined, everyone felt something change. The air seemed fresher, the colors looked brighter, and a sense of peace filled the area. Emma walked slowly toward the alien. She was not afraid, even though the adults behind her were nervous. Thank you, she said simply. The alien looked at her and made a sound that was almost like music. Then it reached into what seemed like a pocket in its flowing suit and pulled out a small crystal. The crystal was the same blue-green color as the large structures. The alien placed the crystal in the center of Emma's pattern. Immediately, the stones and flowers began to glow with the same soft light as the alien's artwork. What does it mean? Emma asked. The alien could not speak her language, but it seemed to understand her question. It pointed to the crystal then, to the pattern, then to the forest around them. The meaning was clear. The crystal would help keep this place healthy and beautiful. Dr. James Okafor had arrived in the town the day before, still studying the aliens and their work. He watched this interaction with wonder. The alien is giving her a gift, he said quietly to the other adults. It is sharing its technology with us. Mayor Hayes approached Dr. Okafor. What do you think this means for our town? I think it means you have passed some kind of test. You have learned to live in harmony with the Earth, and now the aliens are willing to share their healing technology with you. Over the next few days, similar events began happening in other locations around the world. In small communities near alien restoration sites, people who had adapted to living simply were being given small crystals. Each crystal created a zone where the environment was healthy and clean. But not all communities received this gift. In areas where people immediately returned to their old ways of using technology without thinking about the environment, the aliens kept their distance. Dr. Chun visited one of these communities to study the difference. The city of Phoenix had managed to get some of their power plants working again. They were using older, simpler generators that were not affected by the alien field. We beat them, bragged Mayor Richards of Phoenix. We have electricity again, air conditioning, and some of our computers are working. But Dr. Chun noticed that the air in Phoenix was still polluted, the rivers were still dirty, and the aliens had not come anywhere near the city. Have you tried to contact the aliens? She asked. Why would we want to talk to them? They tried to destroy our civilization. We proved we do not need them. Dr. Chun shook her head. I do not think they were trying to destroy anything. I think they were trying to teach us. Teach us. What? How to live without hurting our planet. Meanwhile, Commander Marcus was watching all of this from space. The view from the International Space Station showed the dramatic changes happening on Earth. Emma, look at this, he called to Dr. Foster. You can see the difference from up here. She joined him at the observation window. Below them, Earth looked different than it had a month ago. In some areas, the land was greener and the water was clearer. These were the places where the aliens had been working. It is like they are creating gardens, Emma said. Each restoration site is spreading outward, making the surrounding area healthier. And look at the patterns, Marcus pointed out. The healthy areas are starting to connect to each other. It was true. Lines of healthy forest and clean water were spreading between the alien sites, creating a network across the planet. They are not just healing individual locations, Emma realized. They are rebuilding the Earth's entire ecosystem. Dr. Foster pulled up data from their instruments. Marcus, I have been studying their technology for weeks now. I think I finally understand what they are doing. What? They are not using machines the way we do. Their technology is alive. It works with natural systems instead of against them. Marcus thought about this. So when we fill the air with radio signals and electromagnetic noise, we are interfering with natural processes we do not even understand? Exactly. The Earth has its own energy systems. Magnetic fields, electrical currents in the ground, natural. Vibrations. Our technology has been disrupting all of that. Back on Earth, Dr. Chun was working with a team of scientists to study the alien crystals more closely. They had found that the crystals did not just clean the environment, they actually taught the local ecosystem how to heal itself. It is amazing, said Dr. Kim, who had been studying plant growth near the crystals. The trees are not just growing faster, they are growing smarter. They are learning to resist disease and pollution. Dr. Chun nodded. And the crystals are teaching them. It is like the aliens are giving the Earth the education in how to be healthy. Young Emma Hayes had become something of a celebrity in her town. Other children came to learn from her how to create the patterns that attracted the aliens. She discovered that the key was not just copying the designs, but understanding what they meant. You have to think about the Earth while you make the pattern, she explained to a group of children. Think about clean water, green trees, and healthy animals. A pattern shows your intention. One 7-year-old boy named Jake tried to create his own pattern. At first, nothing happened, but Emma helped him understand. You are trying too hard to make it perfect, she said. Just think about how much you love this place and want it to be healthy. Jake started over, this time focusing on his feelings, instead of getting the design exactly right. When he finished, the alien appeared again and gave him his own small crystal. Why do they give crystals to children first? Asked Dr. Okafor, who had been watching. Emma thought about this. Maybe. Because we do not have all the wrong ideas that adults have. We just accept that they want to help. As the weeks passed, more and more communities began to understand what the aliens were teaching. The lesson was simple but powerful. Humans could have technology and a healthy planet at the same time, but they had to choose their technology. Carefully dot communities that learned this lesson were rewarded with crystal technology that made their environment beautiful and clean. Communities that refused to change found themselves isolated, watching as the rest of the world transformed around them. 6 months had passed since the alien ships first appeared in Earth's sky. Commander Marcus Rodriguez finally had permission to return home. The space station's mission was ending, and a new crew would take over. As his shuttle descended through the atmosphere, Marcus watched the world below with amazement. Earth looked completely different now. Green networks of healthy forest connected crystal sites across every continent. Rivers ran clear and blue where they had been brown and polluted. Before, even from space, he could see that the planet was healing, but not everywhere. Some cities still showed the gray and brown colors of pollution. These were the places that had rejected the alien teachings and returned to their old ways as soon as possible. Marcus landed at a small airfield near what used to be called the Colorado Restoration Zone. Now people just called it New Garden Valley. Dr. Sarah Chun was waiting for him with a smile. "Welcome back to Earth," she said, giving him a hug. "How do you feel?" Marcus took a deep breath of the clean mountain air. Different. Everything smells so fresh and alive. Sarah led him to a vehicle that looked like a cross between a car and a piece of living wood. "This runs on the Crystal Energy Network. No pollution, no noise, and it actually helps clean the air as it drives. As they traveled through the valley, Marcus saw communities that looked like something from a dream. Houses were built into hillsides and covered with living plants. Solar panels made from organic materials provided power. Children played in streams that sparkled with crystal clean water. How many people live like this now? Marcus asked. About half the world's population. The other half is split between those still learning and those who refuse to change. They passed a group of teenagers working with alien teachers. The aliens no longer hid from humans. They worked side by side with people who wanted to learn their ways of caring for the Earth. The aliens are not leaving, are they? Marcus asked. Some of them are. Their main fleet moved on to other star systems 3 months ago, but many stayed behind to continue teaching us. Sarah drove them to the center of the valley, where the original crystal structure still stood. It had grown much larger over the months, and now it was surrounded by smaller crystals that humans had learned to grow themselves. Dr. James Okafor was there, working with a team of human and alien researchers. He looked up as Marcus approached. Marcus, good to see you back on solid ground. James gestured toward the crystal garden around them. We have learned so much. The aliens call this technology living systems. Everything works together like parts of a single organism. How does it work? Marcus asked. The crystals do not just provide energy. They think. They communicate with each other and with the life around them. They make decisions about how to keep everything healthy and balanced. An alien approached them. Marcus recognized it as the same being that had first made contact with Emma Hayes months ago. The alien had learned to speak some human words, though it still preferred to communicate through patterns and images. Welcome, Star Brother, the alien said in a voice like wind chimes. You have seen Earth from above. What do you think of the changes? Marcus looked around at the beautiful valley, then up at the alien's shimmering form. It is incredible. But I have to ask, why did you help us? What do you get out of this? The alien was quiet for a moment. Then it gestured for Marcus to follow. They walked to a hill overlooking the entire valley. Your species is young, the alien said. We were young once too. We learned the hard way that technology must grow with wisdom, not instead of wisdom. The alien pointed to the crystal network spreading across the landscape. We travel between stars not to conquer, but to share what we learned. Some species learn quickly. Others ... The alien's voice became sad. Others destroy themselves before. They understand. And what about humans? Humans are interesting. Most species either accept our teaching immediately or reject it completely. But humans are divided. Half of your people embrace the new way. The other half clings to the old way. Marcus nodded. He had seen this division from space. Cities like New York, Tokyo, and London had split into 2 parts. One part worked with the aliens and used crystal technology. The other part used traditional electricity and machines. What happens now? Marcus asked. Now comes the final test. We have given you the tools to heal your world, but the choice of how to use them belongs to you. That evening, Marcus joined Sarah, James, and other scientists around a campfire. They were discussing reports from around the world. The division is getting more serious, James said. Some countries are completely converted to the new systems. Others are actively fighting against them. Sarah pulled out a mechanical tablet that used crystal technology. Look at these numbers. The areas using alien technology have 0 pollution, perfect health statistics, and abundant food. But the areas still using old technology are getting worse. Why do they resist? Marcus asked. Dr. Patricia Woods, who had joined them from her nearby clinic, answered. Fear, mostly, and pride. Some people think accepting alien help makes humans look weak. But look what we have gained, Sarah said, gesturing around them. Clean air, pure water, healthy food, and technology that works with nature instead of against it. The next morning, Marcus traveled to Denver, one of the divided cities. The contrast was shocking. The eastern part of the city used crystal technology and looked like a garden. Trees grew on buildings, rivers ran clean, and the air was fresh. The western part still used traditional power plants and looked gray and polluted. The people seemed tired and stressed. Many were sick from breathing dirty air. Mayor Jennifer Walsh met Marcus at the border between the two halves. It is getting harder to keep them separate, she admitted. People from the Western District keep wanting to move east where the air is clean. Why not just convert the whole city? Politics. Fear. Some people think the aliens are trying to control us. They say that depending on alien technology makes us slaves. Marcus walked through both parts of the city. In the crystal-powered east side, he met families who were healthier and happier than he had ever seen before. Children played in clean parks. Adults worked in gardens that grew food using alien techniques. And everyone seemed more relaxed. In the traditionally powered west side, people looked like they had before the aliens came. Stressed, hurried, and often sick. The air was hard to breathe, and nothing grew well. At a public meeting that evening, Marcus listened to the debate between the two sides. We do not need alien help, declared Senator Robert Mills. Humans built this civilization with our own hands. We can solve our own problems. But we have not solved them, replied Dr. Elena Vasquez, who worked with the crystal technology. We have been poisoning our planet for 200 years. The aliens showed us a better way, a way that makes use dependent on them. No, they taught us how to grow our own crystals, how to work with natural systems. They are not controlling us, they are freeing us. Young Emma Hayes, now 13 years old, stood up to speak. Over the months, she had become a leader among the children who worked with the aliens. I have worked with the aliens every day for 6 months, she said. They never tell us what to do. They just show us how to listen to the earth itself. The crystals do not control us. They help us understand what the planet needs. An older man shouted back, You are just a child. You do not understand what freedom means. Emma looked at him calmly. I understand that the air in my town is clean enough to breathe. I understand that our rivers have fish in them again. I understand that no one gets sick from pollution anymore. If that is not freedom, what is? The debate continued for hours. But Marcus could see that minds were slowly changing. More and more people were beginning to understand that the aliens had not come to conquer. They had come to offer a gift. Over the following weeks, Marcus traveled to many countries. Everywhere, he saw the same pattern. Communities that embraced the alien teachings prospered. Communities that rejected them struggled with increasing pollution and environmental problems. In Australia, he visited Aboriginal communities that had adapted the crystal technology to their traditional ways of living with the land. The results were amazing. Deserts were becoming green again, and wildlife was returning to areas where it had been extinct for decades. In Japan, he saw cities that had completely integrated crystal technology with human engineering. Buildings that cleaned the air, transportation systems that added energy to the environment instead of taking it away, and factories that actually made the surrounding areas more beautiful. But he also saw places where people had rejected all alien influence. These areas were becoming increasingly isolated as environmental problems worsened. Commander, Marcus returned to New Garden Valley for the first anniversary of the aliens' arrival. A great celebration was planned with representatives from all the communities that had embraced the new way of living. That evening, as the celebration reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The alien ships that had remained in Earth's orbit began to move. But they were not leaving. They were repositioning themselves. The lead alien, the one Marcus had spoken with before, addressed the gathered crowd using the crystal communication network.